Hello guys, what's up? This is Ajay. Welcome back to my channel. Hope you're doing good. And in this video, we are gonna make a character shoot a projectile. We are gonna make this dude produce his fireball projectile, and we are gonna do it by triggering an animation event. But before we start off with this video, I already got a pool manager object on the scene. This is just a game object with the pool manager script attached, and I have already done 2 videos on object pooling in the past, so please go check that out. That would be really useful for this video. But in any case, I'm gonna be checking in this pool manager script to my GitHub, so you can get it from there and you'll be fine. In brief, what a pool manager does is, in cases where we want to produce the same game object several times, for example, in this case, we want to produce this fireball game object on the scene every time the player hits an attack button. So instead of spawning it every time, we are just going to have a pool where we have a predefined set of game objects in deactive mode, and whenever we wanna have it on the scene, we are just gonna switch it to active and move it to the position we want it to be on the scene. And when its use is done, we are not gonna destroy it. We are just gonna switch it back to deactive and move it to the back of the queue in the pool. So here in the script, we got the pool size set to 1 because right now we are just gonna deal with this one fireball game object, and then we got the number of fireballs set to 5 and the original fireball game object and a tag fireball to identify which game object we want to have on the scene. So without further ado, let's get started. Now I have downloaded this new animation from XMO. So I'm gonna set the animation type to humanoid and create from this model, hit apply. Now let's go to animations. I'm gonna check bake into pose for everything, set everything to original, and we got this cool animation. And what we are looking to do is we are going to be firing the projectile when the hand reaches this position, and we're going to be firing it from here. Now let's go to events. I'm going to pause it right here, add an event here, and this is going to be called hit04, hit apply. And now all we need to do is create a method called hit04. Now in animator, third person animator controller, I'm going to create a new state, and this is going to be called attack 3. And let's set the animation for that. Make a transition from idle state and back. I'm just gonna set the speed to 2. We are not gonna have an exit time when moving from idle to the attack state. So let's create another trigger. This is gonna be attack 3. And we are gonna add this condition. So if attack 3 is triggered, we are gonna play this animation, and after exit time is completed, we are gonna move back to idle state. So this should be fine. Now in scripts folder, player, I'm gonna create a new script called Projectile Instantiator. Now let's open this up. In Projectile Instantiator, we are gonna need an instance of our animator. I'm gonna call this player animator. And I'm gonna have a serialized field string. Projectile 1. This is just to get the name of the projectile we wanna pass to our pool manager. So we're also gonna need an instance of our pool manager. So let's set these up in start. And pool manager equals pool manager dot instance. Now I'm gonna say if input dot get key down, let's say 3. So if 3 is pressed, we are gonna play the animation. So player animator dot set trigger, attack 3, and when this animation is played, we are gonna trigger the hit method. So we need a hit. Let's say void hit 04, and when hit is called, we are just gonna say pool manager dot spawn, and spawn is gonna take 4 parameters. The first is gonna be the name of the projectile we wanna have on our scene. Next is gonna be the position, so we are gonna need a vector 3 here, and I'm gonna call it spawn pause. So let's pass the spawn pause as a second parameter. Now we are gonna need a rotation, so that's gonna be transform dot rotation. And we are gonna need to pass something just to identify who produced this projectile. So I'm just gonna say player stats dot user ID. Now we got this red lines under our spawn pause. That's because we haven't assigned anything to it. So I'm gonna add a transform here, and this is gonna be instantiator transform. And we are gonna set this up from the editor. We are gonna set the character's hands to this variable in the editor, so the fireball at least appears to be getting produced from the hands. Here it's gonna be instantiator transform dot position, and we're good to go. Now in the core folder, I'm gonna create a new script called Projectiles. The projectile script is mainly gonna have 3 float variables. First, a speed with which the projectile is gonna move after it is produced on the scene. Second, a time after which the projectile needs to be set to deactive and sent back to the pool. And third, a damage to reduce the health of the enemy when the projectile hits one of the enemies. So let's say serialized field float speed. I'm gonna set it to 10. Let's say deactivate after. I'm gonna set it to 15. And damage, let's set it to 3. We are gonna also have a string to identify the instantiator of the projectile. So let's just call it instantiator. We are not really gonna need a start, so let's delete that. And in update, we are gonna say transform dot translate vector 3 dot forward multiplied by our speed multiplied by time dot delta time, and this is gonna make a projectile move in the forward direction. We are also gonna need a coroutine to deactivate the projectile. Let's say deactivate and pass in a deactivate after. Now let's create this coroutine. This is gonna be float time. We're gonna say yield return new. Wait 4 seconds. Time, and we're going to say game object dot set active false. Now let's create a method to set the instantiator. This is going to be public, and let's call it set instantiator. This is going to take a string parameter, and we just need to say instantiator equals this dot instantiator. Now what this does is, if we go back to our projectile instantiator script which we made a while back, we got this player stats.user id. We are passing in this player stats.user id to the spawn method, and this doesn't need to be the player stats.user id. It just need to be something unique to identify the character, like the name or maybe the tag of the player, depending on your game. So if we go to the spawn method, it just takes in this instantiator and passes it to the set instantiator method in the projectile script, and here it just sets the project instantiator for this projectile, for this instance of the projectile game object. And what we are going to do with this instantiator is, maybe after the projectile hits the enemy and causes damage, we might want to reward the player or something like that. So this can be used to do that, and we are going to be using this to do that in the future. So I'm just setting this up now. Let's see how we can set damage to our enemy when the projectile hits it. So we're going to have an on trigger enter, and inside this we are going to need to check if the other game object is the instantiator or not, because we don't want to take damage if the other game object is the instantiator, and the instantiator is going to have contact with the projectile anyways when it is being produced. So if instantiator not equals, now we are going to need to have a get instantiator, just like we got a set instantiator here, and we are going to do it in our health script, because health script is something which is common to the players and the enemies alike. So we just need to have the get instantiator at one place if we are doing it in the health script. So inside health script, I'm going to create a public method. This is going to return a string, and it's just going to be the ID here, the user ID in my case. But in your game, if you're going to use the tag or the name of the game object, you can use that and it'll work just fine. So I'm just going to call this method get instantiator. Oh, let's just call it get player, because the health script is not going to instantiate anything. So this is just going to return player stats dot user ID, and here we are going to get that by other dot get component health dot get player, and if the other game object is not the instantiator, we are going to take damage, or the other game object is going to take damage. So that's dot take damage, and we're just going to pass damage, and we are going to deactivate a projectile, but of course it's not going to be after 15 seconds. It's going to be much lower, let's say 0.5, and that's pretty much it. Now in resources folder, I have selected all the characters, and I'm going to attach the projectile instantiator script. Now for this dude, I'm going to set the projectile one as fireball, and I'm going to set the instantiator transform as the right hand. Now for the projectiles fireball, I have attached the projectile script, and we don't need to do anything here, because we have already set this up in code, the speed deactivate after and damage. Now if we hit play, we can see that the fireball already on the scene is moving. That's just because Now the projectile script is attached to it and it's got a speed of 10. But if we press 3, we can also see that the projectile fireball is getting produced from the hands of the character, so that's good. Now let's try hitting this punching bag and see if the health of the punching bag is getting reduced. So we got the punching bag with health set to 100 health point and start health set to 100. But now if we try hitting it with a fireball projectile, okay, we can see that the health point is getting reduced by 3, so that's pretty good. Guys, that's it for today. Thank you for watching my video. Hope you liked it. Please subscribe to my channel if you have not already. That would be really helpful. Good luck. See ya. Bye.